Well, thank you. Yeah, how you doing, Joe? Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I get caught up in all this, and it's not exactly um, what's the word? User friend, not user friendly. I'm not very interactive when I'm just in the middle of inking stuff, so apologize for that. Senpai, so, so cringeworthy. Oh my goodness. So this is the last. Am I gonna learn to balance what? Sorry, I can't even see it properly. I don't know what. I sorry, I can't say what it is. Type something else, Joe, because there's a big heart in the way for some reason. So it says, "Am I gonna learn to balance?" And then for some reason, that's it. You love Jeremy's pre-inked face in that panel. Am I gonna learn to balance it? Balance what? Balance what, buddy? Oh, I see. Yeah, maybe at some point. Um, sometimes. I mean, I can do it quite well. This is the thing. I can do it somewhat well. The problem comes in when I don't actually know if anyone's here. You know what I mean? Then I'll just stay quiet. That's all it is. Um, but if I've got you here, or possibly other people, which I doubt, but I've got you here at least, then I'll talk a bit more. I think we did it all right. job of that yesterday. It's a bit early for you though, isn't it? You're not supposed to be at work. So you're supposed to be at work or not? I can't tell. Anyway, what am I doing? Currently, I am inking. And what I did was I made this kind of on the fly a bit last week. And the dress is fine. I quite like it. But the problem is now I need to remember what the dress is, and I need to use similar techniques to make it seem the same, as in keep it consistent. So for the most part, I've got like black here and on overline. Why is it named podcast? Because I haven't changed it, and that's it. I am currently just doing things on the fly, and if I have to change it, I will. But I don't really want to, because is it called podcast? It is called podcast. Because I'm talking as if it's a podcast about art while also making art. So there's it's like a live streaming podcast all in one. So yeah, enjoy that, bro. Enjoy that. Bull nonsense, right, right there. Nobody can't say that. I can't bull crap with the best of them. Anyway, what I'm doing is picking out the shadows. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Where is it that you're going to be drawing? What is it you're going to be trying to emphasize? And dresses are really difficult in the nicest way to draw, because they all have their own textures, their own feels. And it's not just dresses, it's like, loose shirts in general. You had a tight t-shirt, for example, right? Did a tight t-shirt on a character, male or female. You can pretty much just draw the body in, and you've kind of sussed out what it's supposed to look like. But then loose stuff is a little bit more difficult. But textured garments like a silky dress or leather or something like that, that's a little bit harder to do. But at the same time, it's worth that little bit of extra effort, because it just looks so much cleaner if you put that effort in. So I would always recommend putting in a level of effort for it, because honestly it just adds so much depth, I think, in something so small. I mean, it looks good. I mean, I'm quite happy with that. Let me just check. Here's a little bit more curly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of wave to her hair, like that. So it adds in a little bit more character as well. Right. Now, get my reference pictures up, because I can't remember what her nose looks like. And again, this is why you have reference pictures. Make sure you have the character in front of you. Make sure you are ready to draw any angle, any pose, any face, expression. Because honestly, it's like, why is everyone supposed to look different so you can pick them out, right? But if they look odd, if they don't have the same nose in every panel, or they don't have the same mouth in every panel, mouth shape or eye shape, then it's really obvious that you don't really know what you're doing. Does that sound harsh? But the truth is, if you don't think carefully about what does every character look like at every angle, and it is definitely that character, then you're not going to be consistent enough, and actually you probably won't get hired because of your lack of consistency. So I would always recommend having a character sheet that you can reference from. That's how you get jobs, that's how you get the bills paid, and that's how you get recognition. By putting that level of effort in, which majority of people will already be putting in. So, if you don't like doing character sheets and you don't like having references of characters at every angle, start to learn how to do it, because honestly, in the long run, it'll benefit you. It'll benefit you so much. What is this thing? And you could guide them to your YouTube. Okay, so well, you can literally just do a time lapse like you do for Instagram, and it might get a lot more attention than what you think. And you could guide them to your YouTube. Yeah, absolutely can. I could do, 100%. Do I want to? Probably. Do I have time to? Probably not. This is the kind of good and bad of it all, is that I am very much going to be busy with kids and everything over the holidays. So I didn't want to just, I'm not necessarily doing the live streams so that I can get lots of people on. And I appreciate you guys who are here. I really, really do. The reason I'm doing the live streams is to get back into it for after the holidays, because I'm going to be away next week. So we won't be able to do anything. But I want to have a consistency of live streams and whatnot that I can kind of rely on when I come back. So that's it. And I haven't gone on to TikTok, and I don't really necessarily want to, but I know I have to at some point. So yeah, it's on the list. Too much. No, better than that. Right, let's get a table sorted. Oh, she doesn't have a chair that she's sitting on. Let's get her chair sorted. Now I've chosen like a really thin pen just so I can do this consistently. And the thinner the pen is, the more you can kind of make something of like easy mistakes. So just so you're aware, be aware of that when you are drawing. Images like this, smaller pens, thinner pens are better. If you want to make a character stand out, obviously try and go for a thicker pen. It's an old architecture technique, like an old art technique. And it's really, really useful. It's really, really helpful. I'm going to be adding in a couple of things on tables like flutes, so champagne flutes or wine glasses and things like that for a little bit of context and just to get an idea behind it. But again, none of that's necessary. It's just small details to add in, so it looks like a full picture, like an actual thing that's happening. So just be aware that you have a number of opportunities in front of you to play around with chances to draw things that you may not necessarily draw regularly. But because of this is supposed to be taking place in a larger event, this is the pick, the draft pick, which is a huge event, then there's going to be things like wine glasses, and there's going to be things like plates, and there's going to be things like, say the mum ordered a martini or something like that. Why would she? I don't know, but let's just build that in, as part of the fun. But I'm using these thin lines because they're not necessary. They're not even necessarily going to be noticed. They are just there for context of event and for a little bit of completeness for the picture. So it's just small things to look out for: plates, cups, empty plates, possibly some crumbs still on it. If this is a big event, which I believe the draft has tables for and all that kind of stuff for food, unless I'm totally wrong. Knives and forks, for example. It doesn't have to be perfect, just adding a little bit of context here. Again, nothing huge, nothing major, but it creates depth. And again, it's not about making it messy, it's about making it interesting. And that's it. So here, all I've done is added a little bit of things that I can look back on and just add small things here and there. Well, my version does, so it just does now, Joe. Okay, be happy with that. Okay. Right, where is it? I always have my French curve. My French curve, which I can't seem to see right now, is one of my most favourite tools to use. Where did I put it? Oh, my French curve is so useful. I normally... Oh, wait, is this it? No. There it is. Right, so my French curve. Is essentially this tool here. Now there's a couple of variations you can get in the French curve, and I've got like a 4 or 5 variations of it. But this is my French curve, and it is so useful for those curved lines and things like that. I notice it, I like the table, for example, I can just do so quickly and so easily, just adding a little bit of right there, and that works so well just as a thing to follow. So definitely don't be afraid to use tools like your French curve or rulers or other things here and there, because in the end it just it's so much cleaner. That's what you want. You want it to be a clean thing. You want it to have strong, confident lines. You want it to be clean. So that's it. Definitely add this thing in. Use your tools in front of you. Right, so right now I'm currently using like a 3. I'm going to pick it up to about a 0.5. So I point forward just for this chair here. This was the guy who just walked away to receive his cap as being drafted into, was it the Greenville Grizzlies? Excuse me. Sorry, felt a sneeze coming in. Into the Greenville Grizzlies. That's his chair there. So we just need to put that as a reminder, as like a point of contact that this is where he was. Empty chair. Therefore, someone was sitting there. Who was sitting there? The person who has just left. How do you know that? Because he got up in the previous page. This is it. So it's like context, pulling back into it, completing the story a little bit more, making sure that everything is well-rounded. Because otherwise, it's like, right, random chair, what's that got to do with anything? Oh, no idea. But putting it into the context of the overall image, putting the mum beside it where she was last time. So this is the whole point in this page, and actually I love doing this. There's the mum, right? And then can't really see, there's the chair, right? But there's the mum, and there's the guy. And so building all on to this, you then come back to this panel where there's the mum again, there's the empty chair. But then now we're moving on a little bit closer to the person beside that empty chair, and that is Jeremy. There's our main guy. So the point is, right, we're moving on from this part into the next part and creating something which is furthering the story. And that's why you have moments like this. That's why you have those little bits of extra detail. Because otherwise you just should be showing everything as it is. But then where's the anchor point? Where's the callback so that you know that the story is further on? It's all about putting in a little bit of details so that the reader knows that they're moving forward. And if you feel, purposefully you can make things that make it seem stale or make it seem stagnant. And that's just, because of the beats that you want to drop in your story, or that's just because of the effect that you want to have. But I guess the point I'm making is whatever you draw should be purposeful as opposed to just being there. Whatever you put into your page should have a lasting feeling of either impact or moving forward or moving backwards, or time should be a factor into your choice whenever you're drawing. That's all I'm saying. Advice for the future. I've been doing that a lot lately. I'm sorry if you don't care. I don't want to. I actually think I need to change that a little bit. It just seems a bit forced. I like that, the way that worked. You can't even see the chair because he's leaning back so much. Let's change this ever so slightly. Right, so we want our main boy Jeremy, J Money. I appreciate it. I really do. Just got to put the word out there, right? And you see, this is what I mean. Like, I just the picture of who he was didn't quite work. So now we just need to emphasize it a little bit more. How was it? No, that arm was underneath. Just like a big guy, isn't he? I think that looks much better. A little bit cleaner. We'll put him to the side a little bit more. It's almost like he's trying to bang into that chair. But he's still the tallest one. He's essentially being... you're almost forced to look at him, even in that position. So it's a lot of... what's the word? Composition. Composition needs to come into play as well here. So let's talk about composition. Now, multi-composition is a really big and complicated topic. Sorry, I'm just going to put the reference up here for the other dude, Jeremy. Hello, Jeremy. Where are you? I can't see him. Lost. There you are. This is, I mean, I don't want to give too much away because I'm actually really excited for you guys to read this as opposed to just me telling you everything about it, right? So I'm not going to tell you everything about this, right? But I'll let you read it when it comes out. The storyboards are essentially done, right? So Joe and I have essentially done the storyboards for this. Everything's essentially been approved for the most part. The hard part about this is trying to get the storyboard inked when you realize that some of this, because it's a storyboard, it's not like the finalized art, as it were, then it's not finished. You know, I still need to make something else sometimes a little bit more concrete, that, you know, the character can look better and I can follow better with inks, and that's just what you're going to have to do sometimes. I'm not going to call it sharing art wisdom. It just seems really, what's the word? Maybe almost pompous for what I'm actually doing. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily true. Sharing art wisdom. I like the idea behind it for sure. But I wouldn't say I'm sharing art wisdom. But thank you though. Anyway. Maybe that needs to be slightly side on. Anyway. Because these are storyboards, like I was saying, it's really just a case of can we make it so that it is so it looks better, and that's the whole point in inking is it makes it look a little bit more solid. But inking is not the same as just drawing, okay? There's loads and loads of context when it comes to inking. There's loads and loads of nuance when it comes to inking. There's not, a lot of people, I think, almost fall into this false idea that because someone is good at art, they're automatically good at inking. That's not true. Okay, that's really not true. What is consistent is being able to pick up shapes and structures no matter whether you're inking or whether you're drawing. That's, yeah, fair enough. You almost have to be able to do that. In fact, you do have to be able to do that if you're going to be a good artist. But inking allows for the artist who is inking it to give their own flair. And some artists are better at others than inking. I, for example, think that my pencils are fine, but when I put my inks on top of it, it becomes a whole different thing. Like, it gives it so much more life. And there are some really great inkers out there who can do both. Jorge Jimenez, for example, is phenomenal at that. A lot of the mangaka that do this, the manga guys who draw manga, are really, really good artists. But some of them are just good at art as opposed to inking. You know, there is a big difference. So if you are wanting to get into like an industry like this, figure out what you like to do. Figure out what works for you. It's not just like, oh, I want to be an artist, so therefore I have to learn how to draw well. Actually, you can be an artist when do a letter. Jim Lee, for example, is phenomenal at his pencils and his structures. It's taken him a long time to get to the inking stage where he is now, but he does it so traditionally. So Jim Lee is one of those people who does traditional inks, and he just kind of draws straight from the bat. Almost gives it a very rough pencil sketch now, and it does a very rough pencil sketch, and then just inks on top of it, and then because he's so confident in his work now, he's been doing it for like 40 years. You know what I mean? He's not exactly new to the game, so has that confidence in his own ability, that confidence in his his artwork, that he can just start off inking. But, you know, if you look at some of his pencils, he'll get another person to ink them because they bring their own flair to it. You know, it's not as simple as, oh, no, I can ink and therefore I am good. You know, or I can draw and therefore I can ink, sorry, is what I meant to say. Because it doesn't hold true. Anyway, that's separate. I guess the point I'm trying to make is there are multiple different types of artist, and every one of them has their own place in their own craft and are absolutely necessary for the over-encompassing project. You know, it's not like the lettering, for example, I think is one of the most important things. Definitely one of the most important things. He looks a bit Superman-like there, doesn't he? Because it creates a whole mood and sense to the words. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to type stuff in. Actually, it creates a whole what's the word? It creates essentially a mood, I guess is the way I'm trying to say it. It creates a nice mood for the lines. It gives them personality. It gives them it creates art out of them, I think. So definitely inking is lettering is really important. Right, what I will also do is I'm going to move up to a 0.6 when I'm inking our main boy Jeremy to make him stand out that little bit more. But I think automatically, because of the way we have created the visuals around him and given him room to breathe and given him his own, he's kind of taller than everyone else, so he's automatically standing out. So Jeremy here is our main guy, automatically your eye goes to him. And that's really, really useful, because that's what we want, especially because that essentially gives us our next panel. You know, it creates, it gives us a focal point to move on to here. So yeah. And what I don't want to do, and I've done this a little bit, is I don't want a line that flows into another line. So what do I mean by that? If I, for example, had the tie coming out to here, or a tie coming out to like here, it would flow into the side of this lady's face, and then it kind of becomes one thing, and therefore Jeremy is he doesn't stand out anymore. He then just kind of joins the crowd. So we want his lines to be self-contained. We want his lines to be purely for him. Everyone else can, you know, merge or join. That's not an issue because we're not focusing on them so much. But it creates, you know, like those weird images. When you have, you know, like the angle of which is chosen is like two people have merged into one, or, you know, this guy's leg looks like that lady's arm, that kind of thing, because the angle that it's been done at, that's what we want to try and avoid, you know. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen. It's not that it's a bad thing when it happens, and yeah, and it can be used effectively, but it's not exactly ideal. You know, this is one of the benefits of art as opposed to, I say that. One of the benefits of drawing and inking as opposed to photography art is that you can do as much placement of objects as you possibly can, when it comes to photography, but ultimately, if lines flow the way they do, especially if you're trying to take like a candid picture, then it's difficult for things not to merge sometimes into each other. If you are drawing this, you can play about with that a little bit, and actually, Jim Lee explains that really well when he's talking about cinematic scenes, context of the sun being here, and therefore we can draw it in a different place because, in reality, this is what it would look like, and it doesn't look nice. Or there are better ways of doing it. Anyway, um, ears. I know a lot of people get freaked out about drawing ears. I'll do a quick thing on ears, right, very quickly. One line goes round. Okay, so one quick line goes round. Everyone's ears are different. You have the little bulb here. Draw the bulb, and then do every line essentially just coming around like that, and that's it. Okay, don't bother with the low. If you want to do extended lobes, you can. If you want to do like a little internal part of the ear there, you can. I'll be honest with you, that's your personal choice. You don't have to. That's all you really need to remember is the larger line, the bulb, and then there's essentially two inner canals to work with. That's the basic how to do an ear. There's more to it. Right now I'm not going to because, my guy's, you're seeing him at a distance. I'm not going to go into the details of what his inner ear looks like. You know what I mean? Right, let's see. Don't forget the eyes. He's only 6'6". He'd be undersized in the NBA. Even still, mate, he's 6'6". Taller than the rest of the people at his table, at least. Right, so I'll get rid of that. See, I mean, you can still like see him. You stand out, and it's like, all right, what's the very first thing you see? This dude right here. Why is that? Because of the position we've drawn him in, and also because he's one handsome dude. Right. Let's put in some of this. I think slight confusion here. Let's get rid of that. That doesn't work. That line right there needs to be getting rid of. Right, almost there. Now, how did he have his arms folded? Right, so if we put this a little bit heavier so I can see what's going on a bit more. Then so almost there. One thing I think is important to remember is take your time. Yeah, you've got deadlines that you need to make. But if you are drawing something or you're inking something and the lines are not strong, for example, if you're inking something and the lines are not strong, you've got a lot. Excuse me, excuse me, I don't know what's up with me today. Yeah, so if your lines are not strong enough, or you've got a lot of mistakes, or external lines, or extra flares, or extra endpoints that don't work, that don't look clean, you're essentially going to have to redo it anyway. So what you'd be doing is, if you're not taking your time to do it properly in the first place, you're giving yourself more work. Overall, you're giving yourself less time to complete your task in. Which is why, for example here, I'm redrawing the tie. I don't think the lines were strong enough. And so by doing this, I am creating less work for me, because when I come back to this later and my author looks at this and goes, that didn't look nice, that didn't look fine, that needs to be changed, then actually what I'm doing is then having to go back to it and saying, oh right, he didn't like it, I should have just asked him in the first place, or I should have cleaned it up in the first place because I knew it wasn't good. And that actually helps in the long run to create something that is overall better. There's the chair. Can't see it on the other end. And we're good to go. See, automatically your eye is straight up drawn to him. Not so much her, but arguably she is probably the most interesting in terms of characters because of the visuals and the blacks and the greys. But he's the guy that you look at first. Straight up. Why is that? Because of where we've placed him, because of the composition, because of that empty chair. This rule of 3 triangle. Here. 1, 2, 3. Right? Arrow pointing right to his face. That's it. Right? That's where you'd look. So there's lots of different nuances, lots of different rules here and there that, to look out for. And I would recommend studying up on that. Now we put in the background, put in some faces here and there. I might just reuse that face as well as the background. Get rid of this. And I'm kind of loving doing backgrounds a little bit more now. I am really thin pens. Really thin pens for backgrounds. Again, I've been greying things out a little bit. I think I might not. I think I might just keep it as it is. This does take a little bit of time. I know some people... one massive hint as well, I should say. Don't bother with facial features so much. Color black most of it in. If you can see someone's eyes, that kind of means that they're important. Does that work? I think I want to change that ever so slightly. If you can see someone's eyes, that means that they are important to the story. The reason you would have background characters is to make it fill up a little bit more. Make it look full, make it look complete, right? There you go, much better. Sorry, extra. It was to make everything look complete and full. But the ones in the background, they don't matter. You don't really need to notice them. You don't really have to look at them. So I would honestly recommend just blacking out their eyes and most of their facial features. You don't really need to see it. Say for example, there's an eye. Then generic hair. Put more of a black suit in. And also the black helps us, right? So if I have the background which is mostly black, then the foreground which is going to be white, as in our characters Jeremy and Co, they're going to be more emphasized, so it's worth just noticing small things like that to help you. how good the background looks is not as important. Although it does look a bit odd, doesn't it? So we're going to try and do stuff like that for pretty much everyone in here. Creates more of a fullness, creates more of an idea of interest, it creates more of a complete picture, it gives you context, it gives you placement in terms of composition. Put this person's chair here, for example. Oh, that's a bad looking curve. I think I want to make this lady clapping. So, just different actions. There's one book, Framed Inks, which is... Look, if you want to put in a random thing about Simpsons faces, right, that's your choice, but you know that's not even close to what I was saying, okay? So, thank you. It's more like you black their faces out. Because they're not going to feature again. They're not going to be important unless you want to include someone later. It's not important what they look like. Like here, for example, I know I've got like a bald lady. But I think I'll just give her... So she's having to turn. Doesn't even matter what her hair looks like. Let's get rid of some of that. And at this point, your lines would be better if we kept as clean as possible, because the more, I suppose, random lines that are there, the more interesting it is and the more eye-catching it can be. So try and keep your lines somewhat clean. Nope, wrong button. Self-focusing entirely on Jeremy, if you notice that. Put a bald guy in. I do love putting in random random hairstyles every so often. Different people can have different nose shapes. Different face shapes. Different suits on, different hairstyles. This is your opportunity to be creative without anybody judging you. This is your opportunity to essentially create any and all characters you want. In fact, if you ever watch any animations or you watch things in general, what you will do is you'll notice there will be random, every so often when there's lots of crowded people, lots of crowds around, they'll probably just include the family and or essentially the people who worked on the product, the producers or whoever, they'll be there and they'll be in the show because they needed things to fill out. They needed characters that needed to be filled out, so they just used their own people as inspiration. So Disney does it a lot. For example, Disney does it a lot, and it's really fun just to see the kind of things that people like, oh yeah, I worked with that guy. Oh, there he is. The people who work in Disney and studios like DreamWorks and things like that, they do it quite a lot. There you go. There's some sort of weird Lex Luthor kind of guy. His face, I think, is a bit screwed. So I'll change that. Right. And again, we don't have to draw everybody all the time. We put in just small things here and there. We've got a few people in within context. Now we can just fill in like hairstyles. In the background, nothing major. And we are going to have a moment where essentially everyone just turns white. And why do we do that? Is so we can fade the background people into the background itself. It creates this merging, which means that anybody who's seen in the background is just background, and that allows for so much to happen. So we just put in random lines here and there. Put in more background people. Background chairs, that kind of thing. And it's given us this massively fantastic opportunity to do very little but it makes it look like so much, And it's just about finding that sweet spot of how many people do I actually need to put in there. And because of that kind of corner there, I need to put that one more in. Fill it in because we've got a chair there. And once I get rid of this, see that means lots of people there. Don't need to do much else. We have created a lot of people from very little. See how that works? And now we just put in some of the background stuff, get my French curve, put in some other stuff here and there, use my ruler, draw in some context, and we are essentially good to go. I'll call that back people. See, I haven't decided entirely whether I'm going to grade or not. But one thing that works nicely is lines. Lines are phenomenal. Really thin lines create a lot of context. Sometimes, and you don't necessarily want your lines to be super perfect either. What I want is something that is interesting enough that it looks cool as a background, but not too interesting that makes you feel like that's the most important thing in the page. It's hard to get a balance like that. Like really hard sometimes to get a balance like that. But you'll figure it out the more you practice. And I'm not entirely sure when I figured any of this out. But I do know that some of this is really, really important. So I'm going to add things like, I'm going to show you this for a sec. I'm going to get black, color some of this in just purely black so you can separate the background and the people. And I'm going to add some droplets to it. I'm going to add some highlights and some glows. And because it's on a separate layer, I can essentially just get rid of this. And no, I don't want everything to be entirely black. Yes, I've missed some spaces on purpose. I've missed some spots on purpose. Because, again, visually more interesting. And I'm going to add this lovely little droplet thing. Density up, particle size about there. I'm going to add things like this. This creates this whole idea of celebration. And I will add glows, small things here and there. With some soft lighting. And this, by the way, works for like a city scene as well. If you ever wanted to do a city scene, I can show you exactly how that works as well. I think something like that would work. So what am I going to do? Get rid of some of these lines. Don't need them all. Right, last thing I'm going to do is take some of the background. I'm going to do folder, put the whole thing in a folder. And I'm going to put in this entire thing into a folder. I'm going to create a mask. So I mask the selection. It means it's masked the lines that I'm playing with. And I'm going to essentially use a soft eraser now. And get rid of some of that just in the background like so. That makes our boy Jeremy stand out even more. I did notice, sorry, this needs to be removed. I'm also going to do one more thing, just add a little bit of droplets, like the bigger ones, lower density, and just roughly about here. Which actually creates more of an idea of multiple people as well. There you go. So that's the page. And what is the very first thing that you look at when you look at that panel? There's our boy. See how that works? That's it. That's it. I think that's it. I think that's what we're going to do for now anyway. I'll figure out some more in terms of the logo and whatnot later. But I really like that. I mean, I think that works. That's the whole page. There you go. I can't believe it. Shatterproof Publishing presents. I actually made it, but it wouldn't have been possible without my family, without you, Jeremy. I'll move that over. I think that needs to be moved over a little bit, so you can see the boy. There you go, Jeremy. Anyway, that's it. I'll be joining you before I know it. It's one of those. It's one of those things. Anyway. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed that little session. I'm going to colour this and this page at some point soon. Hopefully tonight. I'll start doing that tonight. I'm going to be taking my work with me when I take the kids away to Glasgow this weekend. So I'll hopefully finish it off there. Minimum, this page is going to be inked. And I'm excited to do it. I really am. I've not coloured things in a little while. Although I wonder, Joe, it's up to you, but I think maybe you just take it and let somebody else colour it. You're just gonna slap me. Right. I just wanted to fix that one quick thing there. Okay, right. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that session, and I'll catch you at the next one. Bye-bye.